Your last day.
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't think you were here. This
this is the architects. Committee,
No.
It's not mine either.
October
I'm gonna do
24th.
it anyway.
Call the meeting to order and need a motion to approve the minutes from September 26th. Brad? Them? Any discussion, corrections, deletions, all in favor? Opposed, carried. Good job, Mike. Exit agenda. Sure. How impatient he is. Hang on, I gotta go. Where'd he go? Oh, there he is. Mike Swan. Mike Swan.
Who? Yeah.
Lisa said you were very impatient. I should do you first.
Yeah.
Oh, I am. I gotta get back to the office and get sworn at by people who haven't paid their taxes, but that's okay. You ready for me, Chairman?
Yep, I'm all set.
Okay, I think everybody's got the occupancy tax revenues. It's looking real good. We're up about 8% over last year, which is a record year. And we're up 41% over 2019, which was the last year prior to the pandemic, which is, I mean, I don't even have an explanation for it. But anyway, our short-term rentals collection through October 20th for this year are $426,991. I would note that most of the stars, they don't pay their or remit their tax to us until December, January. Most of them are on an annual filing basis, over probably 60% of them. So that figure is going to jump considerably at the end of the year. You know, I was just talking with Supervisor Molino and said, you know, we're probably going to bump into the $7 million range by the end of the year for this, which will be another record year, because last year 6.8 was a record year. And just any questions on that?
I have a quick question for you. I forgot what it was. Oh, do you have any idea how much that might be on the short-term rentals? Just a ballpark.
It's gonna be between 800 and $1 million.
Great.
That's my estimate.
Keep up the good work. Brad,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike, how is the signing up for the SDRs and that, how's that going and following through to make sure all the SDRs are paying?
It's going well, right? I mean, we still got a lot out there that I know we haven't got to yet. Probably we're getting between 5 and 10 registrations a week. New ones.
Catching up, yeah, like
Yeah.
people that didn't,
And the vast majority of them are understanding that they have to pay the penalties and interest back to September of 2020. And some of them are not real happy about it, but almost all of them are coming up with that money, which is why we're having such a year, if you want to call it that, in our interest and penalty accounts. It's way up.
now, a lot of these that you're finding that haven't been paying that we're catching up to, have they been collecting?
I don't know. Because basically we're saying, I'm not asking that question. I'm saying to them, this is what you owe. You've reported to us what you collected in rent. This is what you owe. I'm going to assume that some of them have and some of them haven't.
It'd just be interesting if, you know, they collected and they're saying that, you know, well, geez, I don't understand. I mean,
my guess would be that the majority of them have not collected any occupancy tax, and now that we're requesting it, they're basically paying it out of their pocket.
well, it's not like it wasn't well advertised and not put out there, so. Well, thank you.
Mike,
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Michael, SDR revenue from last year versus this. Do you have any recall what that was?
Last year, it was total for the entire year was just a tick under $500,000.
Just under half, okay. And just
So
one
we're
other,
well ahead of that now.
if we look at, your third, fourth, and fifth line on the sheet, talking about 22 to 21. Inflation adjusted, we're basically at a net zero increase then, right?
Hadn't thought of it that way, but yeah, you're about right, yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else got anything from Michael?
Just one follow-up on this short-term rental. Do you have I know it was well advertised initially, but something that we could use as a reminder to our residents, put it on our websites, talk at our meetings. Is there a summary or some brochure or a flyer or anything?
I have a flyer. I got a stack of them on my desk. I can. Yeah, I was gonna say I can scan it and send it to you if you like, because a lot of it's in color and I don't have a color printer, but the
You
scanner.
could do that. That'd be appreciated.
Yep.
Thank you.
And anybody else, any other town official that would like that, I will, okay. I'll just send it out to all the town supervisors. That way you'll all have it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
In color?
Yeah, I can scan in color, can't print.
Okay. Thank you, Michael.
All right, I got one other quick thing, and I know that there was a discussion when the budget was going on about using occupancy tax money to pay overtime for the car show and Americade Balloon Festival. And last week I gave Supervisor Dickinson the total for this year of what that overtime was, and it's $78,000 in overtime. So that's what occupancy tax will be looking at for 2023. I'm not gonna make a comment one way or the other on that, but that's just the figure so that everybody understands. kind of what we're
Is that the overtime for the DPW and Sheriff's Department?
That's overtime for DPW and sheriff,
Sheriff's
and that
Department.
includes the benefits.
Well, that's certainly a topic for discussion. Thank you, Michael.
78,000.
It doesn't include the balloon festival.
Yes, it does.
Oh, it does.
Yes, that's Balloon Festival, car show, Americade, and that's for both DPW and the sheriff's office.
Sounds reasonable.
But I mean, like I said, that does include the benefit package, in other words, FICA and retirement, whatever.
It should be. Oh, sorry, Mr. Chairman. I believe it should be.
Yeah, we got that, Brad. True loud and clear. Okay,
Anything else? Thank you.
thank you, Michael.
Before we get into the other,
We got two requests. Does everybody have this?
no, I'm gonna pass it out.
Okay.
Funny,
You can start with a two pager first, but.
Wow.
Two pages.
One pager.
Well, reading. I like the picture better.
Thank you.
Copy right then. Okay, hello. I don't want to take up too much of anyone's time today, but I want to introduce an idea to everyone. Last year, actually earlier this year, we applied for a state economic infrastructure development grant through the Northern Borders Regional Commission. We were successful in this application. The purpose of the grant was to develop a plan to modernize and link our multi-use trail systems going from Lake George all the way to the Empire State Trail over in outside of Hudson Falls. The idea being that we have the Empire State Trail, which is developed over the course of like 3 or 4 years. It's opened up in 2020. It's a very modern, attractive multi-use trail that connects people from New York City all the way up to, Albany, Buffalo, and then the Champlain Canalway Trail. The pitch behind this grant application to the federal government was that we want to tap into these people. We want to say, have these potential visitors. We want them to come here, spend their money, support our tourism economy. They thought it was a good idea. So they awarded us $160,000 to do this planning initiative. we need to come up with a $40,000 match in cash or in-kind services. I'm proposing to this committee that we use $25,000, which would offset about 62% of the $40,000 required match in occupancy tax funds, and the remainder of that money to be provided for by the municipalities that have the multi-use trails passing through their borders. So that includes Hudson Falls. They will not have their cost share offset by Warren County occupancy tax dollars, but the towns of Queensbury, Lake George, and City of Glens Falls would have offsets to their required matches. I'm in the early stages of getting this grant off the ground. We're still finalizing agreements with the federal government, but I did want to just pitch this idea to the committee now as a way to support our, tourism and recreation economy.
Done.
Yes,
So there's 25,000, that's the Warren County.
yeah, that would be the Warren County share. So it's a total of a $40,000
Are
match.
you also going to town of Lake George and the town of Queensbury?
Yes, and I reached out to the supervisor and the planners there.
And then Glens Falls?
Oh, yeah. So we all had agreements in place when we applied for this funding. And they've indicated their willingness to provide this funding.
What exactly are we gonna do?
Well, so looking at these trail improvement projects as a three-stage process, the first is really figuring out exactly what it is that we want to do. So we need to convene stakeholders, take a look at the existing conditions, compare what we have to modern multi-use trail design standards. And then the second stage is really doing detailed design and construction documents for the desired improvements. And then the third stage would be construction. This is really going to focus on the first phase of that. So it's going to be the planning. It's going to be doing some of the planning level cost estimates to figure out how to modernize our trail system. I think anyone that's used our multi-use trails will realize that, if you go to the Feeder Canalway Trail in Glens Falls, you approach from Hudson Falls onto Shermantown Road, which is really just taking you off by a wastewater treatment plant and sort of an industrial site that's been passed over. You wouldn't realize from that entrance to Glens Falls that you have, half a mile away from revitalizing downtown, a quarter of a mile away from the Hyde collection, short distance from the shirt factory, and all these different attractions that people really enjoy about Glens Falls. You wouldn't know it coming off our multi-use trail systems. So part of this plan is to leverage those state investments in the Empire State Trail and let our communities take advantage of that. So with a few small linkages, we could really, I think, reap some benefits from this.
Thank you. Anybody got any questions? Michael?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thanks. Ethan, who's doing this work? Because I remember this coming out before, but I was just curious, who's actually doing the work?
We're going to put this out to RFP and hire a qualified consultant to do the work.
Okay. So how much time would the planning department be engaged in this because of the in-kind kind of contribution?
The way we have it set up right now is that we would not be required to provide in-kind match, not knowing what our staffing levels are going to be at in the years going forward. We figured we'd insulate our time for other projects by saying, hey, this is going to be all consultant work. But realistically, we will have to oversee the creation of the grant. We are going to be serving as, stakeholders in the project and overseeing the consultant. So it will take time, but we're, shopping out for the technical expertise to conduct the study.
When do you need to know or answer?
Depending on when the next occupancy tax meeting is, I can sort of work on the timing of the finalized grant agreement with the federal government. So I don't think I need it today. Obviously, I would like to come back to the committee with a more formalized request or any other clarifications that you have based on this conversation. Then we can go forward from there.
Mr. Chairman, again? If you don't mind?
Yes, Mike.
Ethan, the grant's already been approved. So we already have this money from the federal government. We just need to come up with a match and make this
Yeah,
happen.
exactly. Yeah, it was a competitive application process.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure why we'd wait, to be honest. If we, I'll make a motion to provide this 25 on the condition that the other towns are able to contribute to make this happen. And I think it doesn't make any sense to wait. We already have the money from the feds. It's always something that we think is of value, at least I believe, so I'd like to move forward with this.
Gene?
I'll second that.
Okay, anybody got any discussion?
I think it's
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Opposed? Good job, Ethan.
Great, thank you all. I think everyone's gonna be pretty happy with it.
Hard sell up there.
No, he looked me
Yeah.
into it the other day when he caught me in the hallway.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be a really exciting project. Gonna be good for quality of life.
You got something else on there?
Yeah, she.
Yeah, just a quick pitch.
Blubber?
It's always good to follow up, Mike Swan on this stuff. Supervisor Grassi, in his work at the town of Portland, recognized there's an issue or potential issue with the installation of de-icing hardware on our water bodies, essentially bubblers, de-icers. These are the things that prevent ice from coming and smashing up your dock. These pieces of equipment, when used properly, can be effective, but if improperly installed, they can create very wide openings in our ice. So this is a risk for snowmobilers, ice fishermen, dog walkers, cross-country skiers, ice skaters, everyone that uses our frozen bodies of water during the wintertime. Based on conversations with the Lake George Association, Supervisor Grassi, Don Lehman, Sarah Frankenfeld realized that we can just sort of tune up some educational materials that have already been produced by various other towns throughout the country, showing people how to properly use de-icing equipment so people are not falling through, or at least less of a risk of falling through the ice. The economic impact of wintertime activities, I think, is pretty large. We're seeing that more and more with things like the ice castles. Even I would imagine that one ice fishing tournament would offset a $3,000 occupancy tax request. Specifically, what we're looking for is money to print and distribute brochures so that waterfront property owners can at least have some idea of what the best practices are for installing and using these pieces of equipment. Don and Sarah have been working on a website, some of the preliminary ideas of it. They've already gotten cost estimates from local printing companies, and really it's just a question of how many we want to get out throughout the county.
You know what the park commission is doing?
I haven't seen what the park commission is doing, but I did speak to Walt Lender about their previous work, and we gave us permission to use their old brochure, which Don has been modernizing.
Brad?
yes, I'd like to kind of state on the myth of the ice eaters. It really has nothing to do with the movement and the smashing of the ice. Because once that ice starts to move, nothing's gonna stop and a bubbler's not even gonna touch it. What basically ice eaters are supposed to be doing, and this would be the information that we want to put out, is not really to get the water far away from the docks. That's what you don't want, is to open that. You want to lock it into the land, but it's really to keep the ice from forming around the dock. So when you have that winter January thaw or the rains and the lake rises, it rises with that ice. The ice rises with the water. And what that does, if your dock is locked into the ice, it's going to lift that up. And that's where the damage comes. And that's when you start losing especially if you're in a crib and it comes out, you start losing your rocks from underneath, or if your stick, it gets it up and it comes back down and it's all crooked. But for movement of ice, trust me,
Yeah,
that's
once
more
that
than a
goes, yeah.
locomotive when that starts moving. And I've seen the destruction. We've tried to do everything, possible to divert, but there's no stopping it once Mother Nature and the wind, the wind
Right.
god start pushing it.
And that's the thing too. There's a lot of misconception. So it's like someone well-intended wants to put on a bubbler, put it out 200 feet away from their dock, pointing the wrong direction. It's a public safety risk, and it's also not doing anything about the problem.
Right, so really, the main information that we want to say is really to have that, and it's okay if the ice does freeze around the dock, if it's 2 inches thick or something, when the water comes up, it's, the dock should be heavy enough, to break the ice. I mean, there's been times where I didn't get the ice eaters going on ahead of time, where I've actually gone and take the boat lift and lift it up, break it up and get the turn on the eater And, you know, the next day I go over and it's, the ice is around the dock on the outside, but far enough out where, you know, if you get that movement, we're all right. So I noticed that practice of letting it freeze in a little before the ice is gonna rise and then turn it on where it kept the ice closer to the dock, but not touching the dock, so. And a big one that I take care of is right up there in Cotton Point, which is a huge access point where I see the fishermen going out all the time, so it is a concern.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything?
Just some question. Does this include the design, obviously the content, but also mailing distribution? Is that funding enough to do all that?
I think the question we hit upon with the distribution is that Don's research put it at about 70 cents for a printed and mailed card, very much like we did with other county initiatives. Sarah used the GIS and we could determine all waterfront property owners. So I think that estimate right there gives us how many to,
So at 70 cents a piece, I think you would estimate a hard about 1,300, let me go to the phone. About 1,300 property owners, so that's, that's part of that. Printing is another 500 or so of additional ones we want to get out, so that would cover what you were looking for your town.
Yeah, but this is not just, it's not just a Horicon issue. So how would the other communities benefit from this 3,000, or do we need to increase it so that our other communities would also be able to distribute this if they wanted to?
yeah, I think it would be very easy to adjust the number and expand the mailing list to include all waterfront Warren County communities. I mean, it's simple, it's a few clicks with GIS, it's updating the printer, the new number. There's some logistics on whether we have to print off the mailing labels or not, but those are small details.
I would distribute these, we would print above what we would mail out as well, so they go into tourism, different places where tourism materials are distributed. Get them that way, we publicize the website. One of the things in mailing out to property owners is seasonal property owners are gonna be gone. And probably, are they gonna get them, if you send them out in late November, early December, is that gonna be very effective?
Well, there are several issues here. I strongly recommend that you touch base with the Park Commission. See what they have done about this in the past and see if they'll participate in whatever we do for the future. And the other thing is homeowners, by and large, aren't putting these out. You can send the homeowners all you want, but I guarantee you, they're not putting these out. You really need to approach the service people that do these. Yes.
Yeah, to both those points, I did introduce this idea at the Warren County Water Quality Committee meeting last week. Dave Witt was there and he's sort of aware of where we're at, didn't have too much to say about it. Beyond the fact that, yeah, there really wasn't too much to say about it. Aside from it's just the sharing of best practices and people are generally in support of the idea. And then secondly, for the modest price of printing and sending these things out, it's sort of awareness building at this point. So sort of like smoking cessation, where, hey, the first flyer didn't make it happen, but it's an educational campaign. Even if it gets the property owners to start looking at their facilities and being like, was this installed right? Then they can have that conversation with their installer. So it's certainly not gonna be perfect, but if you get a handful of people to start doing the right thing and start the conversation for the modest ask, I think it seems like a good start, and certainly we could pilot on a smaller level and continue to develop the outreach as we go forward.
Anybody have anything else for Ethan? Made up your mind, Mike?
Regarding,
Who's asked you for money?
I'm hesitant because it's not covering all our water bodies.
I agree with you, Mike. I would like to see a little more definitive idea what you're going to do. I think it's absolutely imperative that we deal with guys put these things in. For one thing, some of them are very experienced and certainly a good source of knowledge from experienced guys. So we're gonna hold on to it.
Sure, yeah, we can recalibrate the request and we can get hard numbers on what the printing and distribution would be. If you'd like, I can get Dave Wick from the Park Commission to send a letter indicating, his thoughts on this so the committee can consider it.
I like that. You wanna put them on the agenda for next month? Okay. Thank you, Ethan.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you.
1 for 2, that's not bad. Okay. Do this now?
Under discussion, okay.
Oh, fourth quarter. At the request of the boss. Gina, would you like to come up and make the presentation for your fourth quarter?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gina Minster with the Lake George Regional Chamber of Commerce and CBB, and here to present today our Q3 marketing and sales analysis, our activity report. So what you have in front of you is all of the pieces of the puzzle. Actually, you have everything year to date, but also the third quarter Q3 is all broken out based on leads, bookings, pending, our trade show activity, our visits locally and a little bit more regionally, as well as.
Hang on 1 second.
Yep.
Do we
We don't have any copy
We
of
don't have
that.
a copy of that. I'm not seeing any
Email.
chart.
you emailed it to all of us?
Well,
Okay,
I'm a paper type guy.
Just highlight.
We're bad. Go ahead. Gina.
okay. I'll leave this hard copy, but I'm just gonna go through the highlights. So basically, I think in the meantime, I'm gonna pass this around. Sorry, you don't have the cover sheet is what I'm gonna present from. But what's going around there, so that has broken out each quarter, Q1, Q2, Q3, starting with leads. So this particular quarter, we generated 24 leads that we distributed for a total year to date of 98. Those 23 or 24 alone were at 23,000 room nights for those 24 leads. We booked 11 pieces of business in this time frame, the equivalent to 3,600 room nights. There's still 32 pending leads that we're following up on, with the goal is to book as many as we can. And we attended 3 trade shows, well, actually technically 4 trade shows, because 3 of us went to one and worked different pieces of that trade show. We had 113 appointments at Connect in Detroit, between the association, sports and specialty markets. And what that means is, so one person had meetings, one-on-one appointments with those that represent state and national regional associations. And then one of us was in what we would call the specialty market. So it was like anybody that didn't fit into, well, we'll call it Smurf market. So I saw people that had anything from a religious piece of business to a collector type piece of business to something small and Smurfy that would fit in our shoulder seasons. And then we had someone who went to the sports market and that trade show. Then we were also at Smart Meetings. We met with 14 planners. That was a day event. So that was all about the Northeast planners. Since then, we coordinated a variety of events in terms of providing specific services to actually any coordination that they needed, from the Alpha Wind Triathlon to Independent Bankers Association of New York State, Wizard Festival, Nor'easter Scrabble Tournament, New York Assessors Association, Mini Takes the States. I don't know if any of you saw the photographs from that, just to see close to 1,200 Mini Cooper cars that came through Lake George back in July, to Tesla Owners Group that was up in Lake George Escape. So we're all about cars, as you know, anything with wheels and keys and it moves. They love coming to Lake George. And some advanced ice castles. From a marketing standpoint, Meet Lake George is completely a whole new refreshed website so that it's completely seamless. So as you know, earlier this year, Visit Lake George refreshed and rebranded the whole Visit Lake George website. And so we are now a seamless offshoot of that for the group business. So if you are a hotel like the Sagamore, the Queensberry, or Six Flags, a meeting and event planner wants to see your specs, not from a consumer standpoint or a leisure traveler standpoint, but from, how can you meet, how many can you meet, how many can you feed, how many all at once in one spot. So if you look at Meet Lake George, you'll see that it looks exactly like, you wouldn't know that you're leaving to a whole separate website for that information. We continued our launch of regional push with amplified digital media. So basically we took that we've used in the past, other organizations, one that might have done, helped us do digital or print advertising or streaming TV. And we put that all under the umbrella of Amplified TV, which is actually where we have somebody based out of the Post Star, where they can do all of that. And we're only dealing with one entity instead of four. And so it's really helped us with to bring our cohesion much better together and working with one entity that can do all of that. Which I'm sure tourism department already knows because they've been doing that for quite a while with one entity. We had a lot of native ad programs, which means that those, what I talked about with amplified native, meaning that you're putting money behind those pieces, whether it's social media advertising and or pushes, but all direct. The whole goal is to direct traffic back to Meet Lake George. And then from there, it gets pushed to Visit Lake George for events or for restaurants, for dining, other things other than meetings. So all of that then pushes back to Visit Lake George. And then we've continued Lake George's hiring.com. So what we've done is transition into this season for, late fall, winter season hiring, because it's different. And we've worked with, earlier this summer or at the end of the summer, we had a hospitality event. We all worked together at Six Flags. And that was another way to get people thinking about if they're being downsized or done with their current summer jobs, that they could seamlessly go into a seasonal job for the winter. And Lake George's hiring is helping others to promote the jobs that they have, because we're not going to slow down this winter at all. We need all the bodies that we can get to fill the jobs that are available. And then lastly, the community development highlights. So A to D tourism, we're up to having, during this Q3, we trained another 41 people and 254 courses were completed to date. So in that 254, what that means is, let's say Lake George Escape could have added 10 more people this summer to get them through the fall. So those folks came through. So we may have, or some people had refreshers because they had only worked seasonally and some things have changed. So we're really pleased with where we've gone. We're in the top number 2 across any other organization that actually has the A to D program in the country with how many we've trained in the same amount of time. So we're really pleased with that push. And then lastly, the partnership for community belonging. So under the auspices of Chris Duffy pulled together a community team to really talk about the whole DEI initiative and diversity within our community. So it started with, what do we want to do? What do we want to learn? And how do we want to use that? So with that, a poll went out, a Sienna poll, which we all bought into in some way, shape, or form. And so we will see the results of that at the end of November when we could convene the whole committee together. And then from there, we could use that knowledge to know how to promote ourselves to our visitor economy, as well as our residents, of how we do belong and how we are such a welcoming community to the world. And to use some of that as well for our own, to create a cultural resource. So depending on your diversity, your ethnicity, your sense of belonging, you might need to know where specific foods can be had and purchased and or restaurants that serve them and that kind of thing. So there's still more work to be done, but this was the initial that's taken us probably not quite a year to get to, but we started last fall. So those are some highlights from Q3.
Anybody have any questions for Gina? If there are no questions or discussions, I need a resolution to approve just approval to pay the third quarter, fourth quarter. Okay,
Do you need me to bring a motion?
thank you. Deb. Second. John, any discussion
Sorry, what's the motion?
to approve their quarterly payment?
Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I got
Spend
a
your money
question
wisely.
though, Mr. Chairman.
Brad,
You know, in the future, the emails. If we can have, for me, a hard copy at the meeting so I can follow along. Janet, she speaks really fast.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Get so excited about the work.
No, and you do, and and we've talked about it, and I had the opportunity to, to meet you up there with the sled. And then over the weekend for the Special Olympics, so thank you. So I know, but just I would like to have a copy. I mean, I'm not really I'm not.
I'll take care of that immediately.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
okay, anybody else, anything? Yes, you may.
Thank you, I appreciate it. One of the things that my attention was focused on when I first got here at the end of last year was revamping the contract for your agency. Part of which was what we just did today, was the quarterly reporting and then triggering payment. We found it overly burdensome, or the way it was provided, or do you think there's been some value to you and to the committee that's been provided by going through this?
Well, we presented
just-
anyway. The burden is this.
My hope is to make it more universal to some other entities as well going forward. with
Okay.
New contracts as well.
So the burden comes down to the cash flow. So what happens is that, so we have to keep some cash flow there, because you still are paying, salaries and that. So what happens is, if this is, the quarterly report is due on the 15th, which we have sent in with the voucher, we present here today, it could be anywhere because of how payments get made every other week. So we might not see it for another month to 5 weeks. So from today. So now we're into mid-November. So we have to be very careful of, and because we separated finances and totally understand that, but there's not cash in an account that just stays there. You know what I mean?
I follow you 100%.
Yeah, so that's where it changed. Yes, Lisa.
Gina, we have the ability to do an out of audit payment, which I've already have set up for you. So you'll get a check within a week.
Oh, thank you for that. We appreciate that. I just, we have presented every quarter, I know, since I've been here. And we will continue to do that, but I'll make sure that there's paper copies for everybody in advance. So thank you for that.
Okay.
Thanks, Lisa, for your help.
No,
Yeah, so just this morning I received, thank you, Mr. Chairman, a proposal from the folks at World University Games for our sponsorship and participation of that event. It's something that I've been working on pretty much since day one, and they just got around to getting this to me. It is a sponsorship of approximately of $125,000. However, it provides a wide range of benefits, from commercial time on ESPN to having our logo on athlete bibs, to on-site ability to activate on-site as a destination. I would have copies for everybody. This literally came over about 10:30 this morning. So it is an opportunity that I think has some really good benefits, would have some really great exposure for Warren County as a destination. And The one kind of thing we're up against is that the longer that we would potentially wait to approve this, the benefits can start almost immediately in November as they're ramping up a lot of their promotions. So willing to provide this to everybody and talk this over as well in more in depth.
World University Games?
World University Games. We would be the snowboard and freestyle and free ski sponsor. So the events that are happening up at Gore Mountain.
Are any of the events at West Mountain?
No, it's all at Gore. Most of the events are being held up in Lake Placid.
Lake Placid.
And the one negative to this is our logo will appear on a lot of different places. We would have to use in promotions the event logo, which does include Lake Placid 2023 in it. But to have our logo on athlete bibs and commercial time on ESPN and them talking about us as a destination around these events, I think that provides some pretty nice benefit.
How many people are they expecting that year?
It's gonna be, the one issue is this is an international event. And right now, still with some international issues with travel. They're talking potentially up there, 5,000 to 10,000 people as just spectators, not including your competitors and all of that. We also feel that, working with ice castles and people like that, we could draw some people from Lake Placid down, because ice castles would potentially be going on at the same time. As
Even at Gore, there's not a lot of rooms available in Gore.
correct, and they, again, they are, the competitors that are competing at Gore are staying in Queensbury, so they are staying here. The parents more than likely will want to stay fairly close to the competitors as well. So what's going on at Gore will greatly impact
Any
Lake George.
numbers, anticipated numbers for that, or?
I could get some more definitive numbers on that. I don't have that.
Anybody else got any silly questions?
I have some insight.
Okay.
If you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I do some business up in Lake Placid. And the venue that I'm with, I asked them what they expect to do over the World University Games. And their response was kind of interesting. It was, there's going to be a bunch of drunk kids walking around. They have in Lake Placid, from what I understand, they're actually closing off their main thoroughfare from national security kind of reasons. So there won't be a lot of opportunity for people to do up in Lake Placid other than maybe take a shuttle and walk through the city or the village. So it does, I think, create a good opportunity for us to drive some people down this way.
Anybody else? Gene?
No,
Oh, John?
yeah, why aren't they using West Mountain and Gore Mountain more, so?
They, they do have their events and their venues pretty spread out. Some of the hockey is going on up in Canton and Potsdam, not necessarily in Lake Placid. And again, I'm kind of speaking for them in the fact that I think they identified certain areas that they wanted to utilize, and then for security reasons and transportation reasons, keep it a fairly small and compact event. So rather than doing a lot of different venues, just trying to stick with one in each region and kind of focus on that.
Well, there probably won't be any parking, so anybody that wants to drive up there and visit, do they have a shuttle system coming from Queensbury and Lake George going up there? Gore Mountain?
So their operations folks are willing to consider any type of transportation system if we were to put it in place. What they really have right now is and very similar to Canton and Potsdam and those type of areas. Those competitors The families are staying primarily in those areas, so they feel that the majority of that traffic will come within the individual towns themselves. So there wasn't really kind of a need for a long-range transportation program.
On flag.
Yeah. Bob, when we need him. Anybody else?
Just a thought on that kind of money. It's, you know, we have the treasurer's report here on op tax, and it looks like we're gonna have another banner year. So, and we might have, you know, funds to do something like this. Give it a shot.
You looking at right now?
I mean, I could put more details together. I mean, if we can make a final decision at the next meeting. Like I had mentioned, the earlier we kind of get in on the opportunity, the more lead time we have to kind of work on things, and that's the.
Do we have an opportunity to negotiate, since we may be one of the first, the size of our logo and position of that logo?
A lot of that is determined, will be determined by ESPN and the organizing body and World University Games, so we don't have a lot of input into that. I will say that we are really late to the game. Our friends up in Lake Placid, Roost, has really kind of been on board as a similar level sponsor for months now. So we, not that we're kind of getting the leftovers, but the ability to kind of carve something out for strictly the events that are going on in our area. I think it's a pretty neat opportunity, as opposed to them having their name on everything. Yeah.
It just seems that we've known about this for a long time. I think last winter I heard about it. So we're kind of an afterthought. And
Again.
how do we fit into their budget? I mean, how come they're coming after us now? They need it for operations, promotion?
Yeah, they didn't actually come after us when I first got here, and it was brought up at one of the first board meeting I went to by Supervisor Bramer. I started looking into it, and they literally just got the proposal back to me now. So I don't know necessarily whether we were an afterthought, but since I've been on the ground, I've been pursuing it pretty hard with their team up there.
One question. For that amount of funding, did they give you any idea who other sponsors are for that level of funding?
I do have, I think there's 4 at that level currently. I know Roost is one of them. I think there's a healthcare system that's in there. I think there's about 5. The really kind of neat thing about this opportunity is we would be kind of the featured sponsor for those events going on here. So again, your snowboarding, the freestyle skiing, and that is a really neat competition to watch. It's a competition that other people around the country will watch, because it's different than just a hockey game or curling or something along those lines. So again, I think it's a neat opportunity for us to be branded around something that people will be paying attention to.
So they're doing the snowboarding and freestyle skiing.
At Gore. Yeah. Snowboarding, freestyle skiing, and free ski competitions are all going on. Okay.
Yes.
But just one more, is Roost going to be engaged in identifying what we're able to do? Or is this going to be done by ESPN and the leading organization, or did they subcontract this out to Roost for all the other things? Because I don't, there's a competitive piece here for sure.
This agreement and everybody that I've been dealing with has been with the World University Games sponsorship team. So Roost also has a sponsorship there. I'm sure they've got a very similar list of benefits, but this was developed specifically for us by the World University Games sponsorship team.
Well, I'm in support if we need a second to move this forward. Or a first.
I don't think we have a first. I think you're first.
Do that.
Anybody want to second that?
Second.
Is that
I think
a
it's
problem
well
for
worth
us, Lisa? You got that in your first, do you?
You'll need some money.
You got that. So got it. Okay.
What's the amount?
125,000.
Yes.
And how do we measure any return on this?
So in regards to, based on what we're kind of measuring now for all of our media, we'll obviously have the click-throughs. We'll have the, kind of exposure in terms of, ESPN, viewership. We'll have a lot of those elements. If, we could potentially put into affect some of the data, that I'm looking to do on the tourism side, that would be connected in as well. And that would give us a lot more depth of, the people that are seeing us here and their follow through after the fact that, booking, whether they're booking vacations or.
So are we gonna have a specific site when they come on our site that would relate to?
We can have an individual page that would be driven, by our media. Again, some of it is TV based, so it will be a little bit more on the impression side of things and things like that. But, you're talking about an ESPN2 universe, you're talking impressions that are astronomical compared to what we normally are able to get.
Would this all be in the area?
Yes.
Anybody have anything else? Going once, going twice. Peanut Gallery?
Thanks, I'm not on the committee, but you're opening to privilege of the floor.
Excuse me?
I'm not on the committee, but if you're opening it to privilege of the floor, I'll give my 2 peanut
Go ahead.
cents. I think it's a worthwhile endeavor to do this, as was just said by Mr. Snow. It's ESPN, so we have to think about the astronomical numbers of people that are going to be watching athletes with our logo on the front of their bib or back, whatever. And it's an international audience of athletes. So if we're talking about the return on investment, think about international viewers. How much would it cost for us to reach international viewers other ways? And being able to get parents, friends, and others at home in whatever country they're living in to know about the Lake George area and think, hey, maybe if I'm going to go to the US, I might travel there. So I think it's a worthwhile endeavor. And yes, it would have been great to be on board months ago, but let's move forward now so we can get these last few months of benefit out of it.
Good point. Gina, you wanna?
I just wanted to say, from a CDV perspective, we had talked to them about parking. Gore does not feel like they're gonna have a parking issue, like whether or not we needed to have a shuttle anywhere in Lake George, because they will have other trails open during, for regular skiers to come to Gore. Your question about why not west, because they're using all state facilities, because of the state money that's involved in all of this. They had a planner from the state that started like 3 years on this, when Jim McKenna first won the bid, just so you understand that. So even SUNY Potsdam, it's using state facilities at the SUNY schools as well as the ORDA facilities, just, so that they didn't look at non-state venues to that point. And so we, as the CVB, we're creating buttons for all of our hoteliers and restaurant folks that say welcome with the Lake George area logo. And then we have the FISU World Games logo pretty small to keep that Lake Placid. We could not get the permission to use any of their branding. So they're using Sidekick Creative, which has done a lot of our posters, that we have for each of the towns. So we used an image of the mountains that looks like there's a skier at the top. So I'll send that to the committee, but just know that we're making those buttons for everybody in our community to wear to welcome them, and to help with that promotion on that, to extend that reach to as much as we can.
Excellent. Thank you for the information. Good to know. Anything else? Going once? Twice? Got a motion on the floor, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Oh, I'm the chief. So you want to go back up and do,
So why don't we do the agenda items, the resolution request, and then we'll come to the discussion.
okay. We got a resolution request for Warren County Tourist and Convention Development Agreement. Lake George Regional Visitors Bureau. Tax event funding.
So that's the CDB contract. Here,
And it is
I budgeted 600,000. It's up to the committee.
request was 700,000.
For the motion,
Mike? Making a motion. for
I'll
the
make a motion to
600.
bring it to the floor so we can
Okay.
discuss.
All right,
Second.
second it. Thank you.
I'm just wondering, what did we do last year?
550.
550 last year. And 600 is what we budgeted for this year.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I'm gonna have that motion be the motion.
Debbie?
Yeah.
Donna Ward, okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Authorizing one increase commission.
For the civic center. For their. Promotion. For their promotion.
Okay. This is 250,000. It's been a standard annual contract with the Civic Center. A while to get to that number, but it seems to be a good number. A good number for us. Somebody want to move that? Mike? Any discussion?
This was originally, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Chairman, like a 5-year agreement or something like that, 4 or 5-year agreement to continue.
When I was chairman of the board and the Civic Center came to us, they were buying the Civic Center, they were changing things. And they have a coalition of business people. An excellent group. And they all participated financially in this. They just didn't come and talk. So they asked for 250,000. And the plan was that they would go to work and try to determine what it would cost them minimum from the county in order to keep the Civic Center open. And the bottom line was it was 250. 250, they can hold all the events, they've got the hockey. They've done everything, Mike, down there. They have added box seats, they've taken over the concessions. Which is a big thing. That was really a big thing. And they've done a lot of improvements down there. They put a new roof on. They've re-carpeted the locker room, so it's, it's impressive. They got one more.
I do think I recall a number of years ago that there was a time restriction on this.
It was.
We have 2 contracts with the civic center. The other is for the capital costs.
Okay, all right, so this is
So
not,
that's what you're thinking.
all right.
We're at year 4 of 5
Right.
on that.
Okay.
For 100,000.
we're year 4 of 5 on that one. Okay,
Yes.
all right, I'm good with this one.
Question to the committee for some guidance.
Yes.
Does the Civic Center provide any information or metrics back over the course of the year
Yes.
in the past?
They come quarterly.
So the committee wouldn't, in renewing the contract, I'm intending to sit with the tourism, talk about what some of those metrics are, so it's more in line. Maybe not mirrors, but kind of like what we do with the CBD as far as the data, make sure we're getting the right types of information that are helpful for the tourism.
So you're looking at contracts. Their contract is 250 annually, and they get it, they come quarterly and give us updates. So they have the money so they can use it during the year, as opposed to CBD.
Oh, it would be
Have
the
you
same-
spoken to the
concept.
Civic Center since you've gotten here?
I've gone down for a couple of events. They asked that I hold off actually sitting down and meeting with them because they're getting ready to start up the hockey season and all that. So they were pretty busy. So,
You got a slow start.
so they, those meetings are forthcoming.
I think when it gets to that point,
Yep, I'll follow up. I just wanted to see if there was any position thoughts from the committee on that, because we're going to move forward with that as we move into the next year.
No problem. Ben?
Yeah, if I could address just quickly.
Yep.
My son Sean works for the Adirondack Thunder hockey team. They had their first opening game this Saturday night and then Sunday afternoon. They expect to fill up the Cool and Sharing Arena Saturday night and still draw a good crowd for Sunday. They played a couple of games this past weekend out in Worcester, Massachusetts. There's a lot of enthusiasm. They're going to do very well this year as far as attendance and fans returning to hockey. They didn't have a great year last year. They had a poor year last year, but there's a lot of talk and a lot of interest in this hockey team. On Sunday, November 13th, Trey Attanasio, who is the lead singer of the band Fish, is going to be performing. They sold out the arena over a month ago for that concert. I think it was 2012 when I was the contract administrator at the Civic Center. Fish came to play. We had over 7,000 fans in attendance, well above the number that the fire marshal was looking for, but we kind of fixed that. People spent a lot of money at that. In the 8 years that I was the contract administrator, I believe that concert did better than any other concert as far as revenues. People were coming in town and staying at the hotels, visiting the restaurants a day or two even before that, and the day after the concert. They have plans for a number of other special events that was discussed earlier today. Kind of funny, in the 8 years that I was there, professional wrestling actually was our best revenue source. All the concerts and stuff like that. And the young people were well behaved, and they spent money, I think, more than old people like myself did. They had deeper pockets. They were buying more pizza and beer and soda, and the instances of arrests and people getting sick at all of the concerts was very low, considering the number of people in the arena. So thank you.
Ben? Anybody else? So we have a motion on the floor. Second, call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Lake George Village has Forest Information Center. I'm sure you've all seen it, right in the middle of the village, right on the. They've got an information center, and they normally get 25, and they ask for
25,000.
25,000. Somebody want to move that? Gene, John, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay then. So under discussion items, we're looking at trying something new this year. We would like to send all of the events to happen in the towns. We're looking for OCTAX money to go to the towns to get that money. That includes the Balloon Fest, garage sale weekend, car show, Americade, all of them. I think there's 10 or 12, right? Wolf Fest and so what we're gonna do is have them all sent to the towns, and we provide the towns with the necessary funds to fund them. John?
Well, the Balloon Festival, for example, has traditionally been 65,000.
Sorry, this fan just came on.
Yeah, the Balloon Festival is 65,000. And for next year, they're gonna need more than that because it's the 50th anniversary and it's gonna be extra big, so. Are you saying that Queensbury has to put in $75,000 or $80,000?
No, the county's gonna give you the 50,000. County's gonna give you the 40,000.
40 is usually what they annually get.
Okay,
So we're gonna give you 40,000 and
you asked for more.
well, you can do that. You can do that. The other thing I want to point out while I think of it is, Lisa and I sat down with Mike and went through all the numbers and we're doing really well. So we will have some additional money to what our budget is as time goes on. We also have increased the set aside for Mike from 1 million to 1.5.
That's his ask. We need a resolution for that.
So that'll be coming up. Okay,
So
John?
so now the money's gonna go through multiple hands. It's gonna come from the county to the towns, from the towns to the event.
Correct.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
Right?
No, we
Well,
give the
you-
Bloom Festival 15,000.
We still
Probably
can.
have to be 20.
Give them whatever you want.
Yeah, but now you're saying I gotta get them like $80,000.
Well,
Out of our cost.
That's you, they come to the county for 40,000, you never ask for more.
Well, they will next year.
Well, they're gonna come
announce
back to
this-
you with it. You need to talk to us. If they're gonna ask for more, then we'll negotiate with you. The point is that whatever we decide as a committee is gonna go to you to pay them. Brad,
Can I ask why we're changing that, especially for the large events? I know we had the smaller events that the towns got X amount of money and they could contribute that, but when we're talking a larger event where the county's involved. The county takes the majority of the hit of the balloon festival, say. All right, with the expense of the DPW and the sheriff's, Americade's another one. I mean, we just found this out, so. Why are we changing this process to allow it up to the town?
it's not a big change from what we were doing before. It's easier, a lot easier for the county. We pass the money on to the towns and then they can distribute it. And there's no issue with coming to the county board and discussing increases that may be coming for the event.
But now you're.
So how's that change? Excuse me, I'm not done here. So how does that change all the scoring in that we've done in the past?
Falls back on the individual towns.
I don't feel comfortable right now, because I know we've been through this and we've had a system and we have a committee that, for the county, to do some of the major events where it involves the whole county. And I personally think on the events where the county's laying out the majority of the money, for the help in this, I don't agree. I just don't agree with this theory, and I know it's been brought up in the past where the town shouldn't do it, but I thought we had a good thing is the towns get X amount of dollars with their architects money, and that's what they do with it, and the rest of it stays within the county, and the county makes the decision.
Chairman, this is kind of a big change. and I'm not sure if I'm prepared to say yes or no, because I haven't gone through or had the opportunity to understand the benefits and the pros and cons of this decision. And I'd really like to have a chance to understand, what are we gaining? What are the potential negative aspects of this? So we can, I think, all make a sound decision.
Okay. Anybody else?
Put it off until next month, maybe.
Yeah.
You want-
Maybe a sheet of pros and cons of doing this. I don't know. I just don't feel comfortable, because I know how hard we've worked to get the system to work within the committee.
So, yeah, you're putting the burden on the municipalities to have these large events.
I don't know about you, but the burden's already there when they show up. I can tell you that for America.
Yeah, but it's a county regional event. It's a county event. It's a region.
Barricades county regional,
Yeah.
it's probably statewide.
Exactly.
There's no reason why we already do the work. I mean, they show up in Lake George, we're on the hot seat. They want parking, they want this, they want that. We take care of all of it. All we're talking about is transferring the money for their annual expenses. That,
So your DPW is gonna take care of your event and it's not going to involve the county DPW?
Brad, you're mixing apples and oranges. The support that the county gives all the big events, including the garage sale. That's a county thing. We've already brought it up. They're looking for our tax money to pay the overtime. That's a separate issue.
Well, that's what I thought. All the towns get X amount of dollars of odd tax. That's all established when the odd tax was done. So you all get a percentage of your monies to work with. And then the bigger ones, we kept within the county. I don't know why we want to change it, especially when the county lays out, the money.
It's a difference. You lay it out and towns lay it out.
The big difference is we're allocating the money. We're also responsible for making sure it's being spent in the manner that it should, instead of the county doing that. So you're putting more of the burden on the town for these big events when I really think it's a county event and a county burden.
Anybody else? We will table this and put it on the agenda for next month.
If we have hard copies of Aruba,
What's this last one? Oh, county attorney.
Also, do you want to talk about Lake George Radio?
Oh, yeah, I didn't put that in.
Both these things that, with to wait for the new tourism director.
So this committee passed a resolution for contract with Lake George Radio. It has fallen by the wayside for some reasons. John?
Well, the folks at on Bay Road. But what they're offering is what they do for free. And not only that, they said, well, we're a professional outfit. This other outfit broadcasts out of somebody's home.
Oh,
So,
that makes them non-professional?
no, what they said to me was that this should be done for free.
Some of it should be done, but some of it they're already doing.
Like, and that's from.
We're offering you a chance to pinpoint projects and issues that the county's interested in that should be out in the public domain. Maybe an interview with somebody.
As a recap, this was the proposal that came through on the rejuvenation revitalization RFP. It's about $24,000 a year. It includes two 2-minute slots, one around 7:20 in the morning, one at 5:20 in the afternoon. 5 days a week, I believe it is. And those would cycle through promoting events within the Lake George area. Although I must admit that I lose Lake George Radio around Warrensburg.
That's on purpose.
again, a hard copy.
Okay.
We got a discussion here and nothing in.
Okay. Do you have any?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, my recommendation, in reviewing that opportunity, I have a couple concerns, one being really you know, that those broadcasts are to people once they're already here. You know, my charge and my focus is opportunities that we're paying for to bring people from outside the area. So that would be, you know, one concern with their lack of reach as far as broadcast. And then just my history within the tourism industry is that a lot of the local media outlets, radio and TV, do this exact thing as a public service. You know, we down in Florida, we had an hour-long radio program once a week, and that airtime was provided to us for free to utilize as we saw fit. And there was no advertising or remuneration, you know, required as a part of that. So those would be my two, you know, really kind of concerns with that that proposal. You know, my recommendation would be is that we would either work with them on a potential free relationship where they would provide that airtime, or, you know, work with a media company locally that would do that as opposed to paying for them. Their relationship proposal is not intended to bring people. The proposal is to be able to converse with people that live.
Mr. Chairman, this is off the table now, right? In terms of being funded?
Off the table?
Well, it's not being funded right now, right?
Right.
Okay.
So you want to think about it, we'll do this next month?
I think we should just get more information on it, hard copies.
Thank you.
Yeah, because it's what I first thought about it was the time schedules. And I thought it was, you know, in working hours, when people going to work and coming. I don't know how many tourists get up at 7 a.m, take the car out and go listen to the radio. I mean, that's what hit me first, or in the afternoons. You know,
Well, why don't we do this? Let's put it on the agenda for next.
yeah, I think it just needs
And I'll have Walt.
get some more discussion on that.
He's right, George.
Will, let's say tourism or this board be able to give them some statements to put out? I mean, that's. You know, let them put statements out that would help the tourists.
That's the point.
You know. Just a thought. I think we should really get them back in and.
Was the resolution for moving? I don't think we actually. We approved the.
For the 125.
125, we approved doing it.
So I need a motion from the committee to move the funding for the 125,000 that we offered to Al.
I'll make that.
The second. Susan. Number, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Any conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
You want to say something, Kevin?
Yeah, I just want to try to understand the shift of the so-called major events to the communities. I mean, we have a major event every year. We don't get a lot of, well, we get 28, I think the event gets 28,000, then they hit the town up. The town does all the work with our forces, you know, to put on that garage sale. We don't do any outside. But what is the purpose of shifting? So I'm gonna come to the county and ask for the 28,000 that normally they get budgeted to the Chamber of Commerce, and then it's gonna go through my books to give the Chamber of Commerce?
Well, you're on it.
Well, you don't
Because
necessarily have to-
here's the thing,
Ask what we
because
have.
I'm one of the fortunate towns that have any rooms. So I don't get that windfall that Brad talks about, the extra money that goes into all the communities with the rooms. We don't get that, but I fill up a lot of the rooms in Lake George, almost every one of the rooms in Lake George, which Lake George gets the extra money every year. Because of what they take in an oxy tax. I just want to understand how it's gonna work, because for my $32,000 I get a year from oxy tax compared to the 200,000 at the bigger communities, and I don't begrudge them that. I won't be able to do our events unless I get the money from the county. Is that going to be guaranteed to us?
Yes.
Guaranteed money?
Yeah.
Okay, I can work through that, though I do agree with Supervisor Stroud.
Actually, we're talking about, increasing that. Based on the fact that our tax has been growing, but right now, we're just kind of.
But there are things that Lisa does for us with these applications, that we don't have to do now, that the burden will be placed on us and towns to kind of peruse and make sure that somebody doesn't take a right-hand turn and try to fund something that normally wouldn't be funded. Is that what I'm hearing, that the burden will fall back onto us to make sure they're spending the money properly? Yes, no?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yes,
Okay.
that would be a yes to me, but I'm not the chairman.
Thank you.
Fine.
Since we're talking about octax again and this distribution. Mr. Swan came up and told us that over the last couple of years, we've gained over 40%. It's grown.
Right.
That means the town's share has already grown over 40% also.
All the time.
No,
Right.
you're.
So everybody's gone up. So,
Correct.
I brought this up before. There's a significant windfall that's occurred. Right? We need to start taking some of this money into a reserve so we can do some more investment in our future. The octax has been primarily, this is what we have, so we need to keep it going instead of looking beyond.
We have a reserve, Mike.
Well,
Our problem now is that we have had an abnormal, in my opinion, increase in occupancy tax. Now, some of it's attributed to the fact that we've all finally gotten our act together and started including small, short-term rentals. As Mike said, that's a significant part of this. But on top of that, it went up a lot during COVID. And now it's going up again this year. Which is great, we'll take the money. My question is, what is driving it? And is it something that's going to end next year? So we're being cautious, there's no question about it, but I am concerned as you are about recycling more of the money. There's no question about it. The money was supposed to be put back into the community to promote an event. And that's where it should be focused. Gene?
Yeah, everybody has to understand, and it should follow some of the monies. I have it right here in front of me. It's phenomenal numbers. We started the octax in 2004. And this is to the end of 2021, because that's where we have numbers for. We don't have 22 yet. Occupancy tax actually garnered $69,022,789.59, according to the treasury department. So what I'm saying is, what I'll have part of it when we have tourism next. You take the last 5 years, we broke that 3 million bracket in 2014, and we started 4 million, 4 million, 4 million, each one of them going up. And then COVID, 2021, it was $6,895,000. Now, you just heard Mike, when I asked him the question, we might hit 7 million at the end of this year.
Right.
There's a lot of money floating around there someplace.
Right.
We're spending it quickly too, and I'm not saying that. But I just and I've said, I'm not being derogatory to you or police or anything else, but I think it's easier for the county to stay with the big events and let the town do the little ones. You know, it's less paperwork for all of us too. And we got to keep Lisa on for another year to take care of our finances here. So I don't know. I'm wishy-washy and whether, because it's just gonna go from the towns. And, you know, because Lake George and Queensbury and Bolton and stuff have the big events. Lake Luzerne, we don't have big events. We just get our 34,000, a little more, and try to spend it. What I try to spend it on is things like the snowmobile clubs, you know, to get the grooming trails going and doing advertising, the folk school, things like that, that help the town. You know, so we're not really into the biggies. We don't have room for them, but we try to bring them smaller ones in. But anyway, there's a lot of money floating around, and I just, you know, yeah, when will it end? Where's the cliff come? But I think the people, like 2021, people were out in the open. It was because we do so much outdoors. And we advertise, tourism advertises outdoors until the cows come home. And that's where, you know, we could talk about all these other things, but you got to promote the outdoors and what we have here compared to any other county in the state of New York. You know, I don't think we have competition in a lot of places like people say. I don't believe Lake Placid is our competition. They're limited. They do a little bit more in the winter because they got the name of Gore Mountain, and you know, it's a big thing up there.
Yes.
But we continuously go growing. We're growing leaps and bounds here. If you just look at all these, it's an astronomical amount, only $70 million. You know, it's a lot of money. I'd hate to sit down and try to calculate where it all went, but so I think, yeah, that's one thing that's a little bit, we should discuss that a little bit more amongst them, not just the board members here, nothing against, you know, just have some of the towns get involved in this also in the discussion. You know, my 2 cents.
One more.
Go ahead, Mike.
And you guys aren't gonna like this, but I would wonder how this would be managed differently if this was a legislative board instead of a board of supervisors who care about their own towns and the towns that get their money from this pool versus a legislative board that's working towards the whole county and what is best for the whole county. And wow, it's some of my frustration from time to time about how we do this. I'm done.
Yeah, don't get me started.
Wow.
We have a motion on the floor for $125,000 that we allocated to transfer to funds. I'm going to call a question. Unless somebody has a question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You're welcome. Claudia, did you want to say something?
I do. Are you at that privilege of the floor?
I am not, but you can go ahead and say something. We're only an hour and a half over.
Yeah, what's another,
2 minutes.
so I do agree with the idea that was just brought up, as though, even though some will not appreciate that. I do think though that the money that we, for example, allocated for World University Games is a great way for us to use OCTAX in a way that is broad and will support the entire county and not just on an individual town basis. I also do not agree with this proposal to have the money flowing through the towns. I think we have a robust tourism department for a reason. They have the resources and the staff to manage that money and make sure that it is being used properly. If we just send it out to all the towns, you guys are going to be responsible for managing that money. And what happens if there's a question later? Didn't the treasurer just tell us that the auditor was looking at these funds more closely and wanting to make sure that we were using the application forms, that we were scoring, and that we were managing the money appropriately? It sounds like putting the money out to the towns is going to be a step backwards in that whole process, but that's not what I wanted to talk about. I did want to mention that, but I also you have on your agenda about the referral from the ARPA committee. Are you still talking about that one, Dennis? for the Adirondack Theater Festival, the Film Fest money, they submitted an application. And we, as the ARPA committee, passed a resolution to refer it over to Octax to see if you guys would be willing to fund them for the film festival. They had two speakers come, Andrew Meter, I think he's their board president, as well as Miriam, I don't want to mess up her last name, but I'm not sure, Weisfeld. She provided a great presentation about the benefits of the Adirondack Theater Festival, Film Festival. And I know that they would be grateful for funding for that
So why
particular.
didn't ARPA give them money?
We felt like it did not fit in the ARPA criteria.
What are they asking for?
It's money for their film festival, which I think went on this past weekend. It is,
It's the next
Pass-
item on.
yeah. Oh, sorry, a
On the
weekend ago, yeah.
B, number B on the back.
Turn your paper copy over.
This is for the 2022.
It's for the one that happened.
So they want to be reimbursed for the one that just happened?
Yeah. Well, they put in, remember, they put in their application in August, beginning of August, August 2nd, or whatever it
When
was.
did it take place?
Last weekend.
Yeah, the weekend of the
Not this
13th to the 15th or whatever.
In Hudson Falls, right?
No, it's in Huntsville.
That's fine.
The city.
Yeah,
Well, the city, did they put up any ARPA money for it?
I don't know if they put up ARPA money, I don't think so.
Well, they asked for 25,000. I mean, we don't have to give them 25,000, correct?
No, they're not giving anything.
But I mean, I do think it's a worthwhile cause, and it does bring a lot of people in here. I mean, I saw the advertisements and that.
Did you go?
No, this past weekend I was with the Special Olympics as a participant.
Brad? What were you thinking?
I was a ref. I was a ref for the bocce on Saturday, and Friday night I was there for the opening, and our chairman asked me to speak for our county. And I believe our acting county administrator was there, and even though I didn't get a huge pat on the back, I did get a nice picture, and I didn't get yelled at by them, so I think I did all right.
So what were you thinking instead of 25,000?
We funded them in the past. I can't recall exactly what the figure was, but it wasn't 25,000. It was probably more like 10 or 15. But if we were gonna do a standard contract like we do for everybody else, we'd need to see one of our own applications, I would think. Maybe what we need to do is get the application and put it on the agenda for next.
Let's
month.
do this before we make them go through the 34-page application. What is the feeling of this committee about giving them, one, any money? And two, if you're gonna do that, how much? Mike?
Mr. Chairman, just some little more background, because I'm doing my own recall from the presentation that was made at the ARPA committee. That this was primarily because of the losses they incurred during COVID. So I don't believe that it's something that is going to be a recurring ask right now, at least based on what I heard from the presentation.
So they just had,
They had this.
had it. And they anticipated you're gonna have losses from COVID.
And no, this was the prior losses. They're trying to build up their, and yeah, they're just trying to build themselves back up to where they were before. My quick summary.
I have a good feeling with this. I wouldn't mind going halfway, 1250.
What do you
We
want?
have to make a decision without them going all the way through.
Anybody want a second that? Okay. Debbie,
Kind of a contract is.
well, I think part of this resolution is they submit an application.
We're gonna do a standard occupancy tax application or contract, or is this some other kind of contract?
I would think we're doing a
Just
standard.
It's a standard, yeah.
application For a one-time fund. Kevin?
Can you use tax funds? Cause somebody lost revenue during COVID?
Well, we use tax funds to fund events. We use them to fund events.
I understand funding events, but people turn in receipts for what they spend money for.
No, I think what we're doing here is we're gonna have to make an application to occupancy tax for occupancy.
Okay, cause I thought you were saying they lost money, so that's why they can't, I mean, you can't give out tax money because somebody had a loss. They need to, you need to spend the money on what the law is set up for. So if they put in an application, ask for advertising expense. That's legit, but you can't start doing this, guy. I just think you're going down a slippery slope here.
Can we ask Supervisor Bramer back up to maybe enlighten more of what they brought to the ARP? I mean, this is definitely a good point. I don't want to set a precedence of trying to the wording, and I never thought about that as a loss. Once we go with a loss, and that's going to open up other people to come back. So I'm wondering why ARPA did not feel that this was, since there was a loss of business.
If I can just give an opinion that we get an application in, table this for the next meeting, and then based on the application, move forward as far as what basis the actual nonprofit puts forward. I think that would be a much sounder way to proceed legally so that all the blocks are checked in the right order.
Okay.
Claudia, why don't you give us a little?
I agree with that. I was going to suggest that we go along with the recommendation to have an application put before you for occupancy tax. They did talk about having COVID losses, but that I'm not sure was exactly their request for the funding. It was that they would have expenses from this event and they would like to get reimbursed through occupancy tax. So in any case, I think you'd get an application, put this aside for now. Figure out exactly what you would be funding.
Okay, and Lisa, did we give them money already last year for? No. Okay, so I'll change my resolution for a tabling it with a filled out application for tax money.
Very good. Everybody in favor? Okay, we'll do that.
Do we need a second on that amended motion? Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Privilege of the floor. Privilege by the county review of occupancy tax funding and plan history and local law.
That's just kind of ongoing as we go forward. What I was going to ask for a privilege on the floor is the committee's indulgence at the next meeting. Give me about 5 minutes to go over basic principles, what the statute says, what local law says, so that we're all on the same page. I'm hearing a lot of questions and possible concepts of how to do things in the future. It might be helpful just to take 5 minutes to firm up everyone's understanding and make sure we're all on the same page as to what these monies are, how they're supposed to be used, what rules are currently governing the county. And then from that point, the committee can make decisions if they like those rules, want to change the ones that are within their discretion. But hopefully everyone will have a clearer picture of what this is and what we can do with it.
Mark them down on the agenda and put in parentheses 5 minutes. Okay, now I'm gonna do a privilege of the floor. Anyone? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. please.
What happened to number 5?
That's what we were just talking about.
That's what we just talked about.
5 minutes. Oh, okay. So we're not going to discuss. All right, thank you. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the theater thing.
A motion to adjourn second. Brad, all in